The session aims to foster a supportive environment for open discussions. Where questions are encouraged, we do encourage questions, and experiences will be shared. The panel members will share how to navigate resources for those seeking help, explain why they are inspired to be peer professionals, and how we can come together to do better as a community. It is an invaluable session for anyone interested in the field of substance use, providing both inspiration and practical insight. The goal here is to help individuals to understand that there is many roads to recovery, and recovery doesn't always look the same. But we have to remain open-minded and meet people where they're at in the journey that they're on. So at this time, I'm gonna just turn it over to a couple of our presenters, our panelists rather. And what you're gonna notice here in this room, we're gonna have what's called almost like a conversation. And what's happening, you're actually is like sitting in our conversation. And we're just gonna be talking. And at the end, then definitely we're gonna open it up for Q&A. But the goal here is really so that this conversation is almost like, as we kind of talked about it, almost like a podcast, but with people in the room. Right? And so, and that's the atmosphere we would like to set. And there's no wrong answer or there's no stupid questions. But we also have to be mindful and respectful for everyone that's on the panel and individuals in this room. So at this time, we're going to start to my left. We'll start with Amanda. Come on, how many people, right? All right, yeah. So at this time, we'll start with to my right. That's right, come on, let's clap for Amanda.
My name is Amanda Tennyson. I am the Harm Reduction Program Coordinator at Winnebago County Health Department. I don't remember my name, guys. I thought I was going to forget my name when I came up here. I am also a recovery coach, and I also have my license as a substance abuse counselor in training. And I just finished my internship with
Hi everyone, I'm LJ Volp. I'm a peer recovery specialist, which means I'm certified as a recovery coach and a peer support specialist. I work with the Unity Recovery Services, but currently, for the last 2.5 years, I've been contracted to the Winnebago County SOAR program as part of their team.
Hi everybody, my name is Megan Edwards. I am the program director at Solutions Recovery in Oshkosh. Solutions Recovery is a peer-driven recovery center that we have here in Oshkosh, a really great resource for anyone, whether you're struggling or not, to attend a safe and clean environment, and really it's just like a great place to hang out. So whether you're in recovery or not, family members, there's meetings, there's all sorts of things that we offer there. My background, my educational background is in mental health and substance use. So by nature, it's actually by trade social work. And I'm also a person in long-term recovery.
No, I'm going to ask another question.
Okay, thanks, accepted.
All right. Give her that. So, can you open up a little bit and just let us know a little bit, what inspired you or motivated you to work in the field of substance use? And I'm asking each of you to talk about it. What inspired you? What motivated you to work in this field? And please take a couple of minutes and share.
Well, for me, it was having gone through it myself. Even before though, I don't know, I always wanted to be in the helping profession. Even in the middle of active addiction, but I just was not in a place, headspace, spiritually, mentally, physically, to be able to be helping another human being, to be honest with you. I wasn't able to really take care of myself at the time, so I've always wanted to do something like that. I always wanted to have an impact somewhere. And you know, being in active addiction, it closed every single door for that opportunity. I always talk about, like, I was like enslaved to the drug. So it's like, until I was able to get clean and sober, and seriously, by the grace of God, having recovery offered to me, having my predecessors sit down with me and help me, did those doors open for me to be able to help another person in that capacity. So when I got into recovery in 2014, I had to be reminded right away, because I was like going to school and trying to you know, further my career and all of that. It's like I wanted to have my cake and eat it too, and I just could not manage both of them. But I got into Winnebago County Drug Court in 2014, and I remember vividly sitting down with a caseworker, and I was enrolled at the tech. I had got kicked out of UW Oshkosh, actually the whole entire UW system. They did not want me on their campus, and nor any other UW campuses. So that paints the picture of where I was at the time. So I ended up enrolling into Fox Valley Tech because I was always this like, I had just like hold it together on the outside, make it look like I appear to be doing well, then like Megan's okay, you know? And it just, I could not keep up that facade. So I ended up getting into drug court, and I was enrolled in classes, and I vividly remember sitting down with the caseworker, and she's like, you need to cancel all of your classes, and you're not enrolling in school this semester. And my heart was broken. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, this is who I am, it's my identity, like, this is what I want to do with my life. And she's like, you just used 2 days ago, and you have no idea what you want. And I'm like, that's rude, you know? But I look back at those moments where I was extremely vulnerable, and I thought that I knew what I wanted, and I didn't. And truthfully, I needed somebody to tell me that. I needed somebody to give me direction. If I was in charge of my own life at that time, I don't know where it would have gone. So I'm super grateful for drug court, for giving me the opportunity to take a break, to focus on myself, to focus on my recovery. And then from there, it's like I got well, right? Like I was able to stay clean and sober. I had time in between getting kicked out of the UW system. I also remember the dean of students sitting down with me when I was getting suspended, and he had said, he's like, you're gonna be suspended for 1.5 years. I was really lucky I didn't get expelled. And he said, you're gonna need that. You're gonna need that before you come back and try to do this anyway. And it's like, so all of these people, like these little seeds were being planted in me, yet I wanted to do what I wanted to do, which was go to school and like build this life up over here while I'm like suffering and dying inside over here. And so giving those opportunities and having people give me direction and being in a position finally where I was able to take that direction allowed me the time to heal, allowed me the time to have a good foundation in my recovery, and allowed me to be healthy so that I am able to enter this field. So after, I don't know what it was, I probably went back to school and I was like 2 years sober, and I got my bachelor's degree, and I went back here, which is really like ironic, kind of, because I got kicked out of here. And I ended up graduating with my bachelor's here, and then I went right away to get my master's at UW Oshkosh. And the full circle moment for me, right in the beginning, was when I was doing my first internship in my first year of my grad program, and I was able to work here at the UW Oshkosh Counseling Center. And I just remember thinking, like, how did I get here? You know, like, this is just so crazy. And just like the gifts of recovery and the doors that open, those doors were shut for me when I was, like I said, enslaved by the drug. And it's like anything is possible, regardless. I really, really liked the speakers today about, you know, having felony charge and like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do anything ever again. And I work in a population today where like that's a really common concern. And it's like, I get to work side by side with law enforcement today. I get to go inside of the jail and help people where I was at I get to work at UW Oshkosh Counseling Center, a place that I got, kicked out from. I get to work side by side with the police officer that was present at my arrest in 2013. Like, those are the cool things. So it's like, that's what opened up the door for me, where I'm like, I want to be helpful in this field. I want to be educated, but I also, the peer part. So this is the last part I talk about. So what motivated me to be a peer? And a peer is having somebody having gone through it, right? Like, I have this lived experience, I have this background, and what some would look at as black marks or whatever, right? Like, in society, we talked a lot about stigma today. And I used to be so afraid to talk about my story on a public level like this. Like, I remember when I first started my job at Solutions, and I'm like, I have to go in front of people and talk about products. Like, that's really scary for me, And I'm sacrificing my professionalism or whatever. I had professors telling me all that type of stuff over the years, where it's no, we don't disclose our personal recovery. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. But then I found myself in this position of being able to have both, right? I have the educational background, but then I'm also a peer, and I look at it and I'm like, my lived experience today is my biggest asset in how I help people. And when I'm sitting across the table from another person who's going through exactly what I've gone through, there is just nothing like it. There's nothing like having that connection with somebody. So I just love peer work so much. I don't know what it is. It's today I was facilitating a group in a jail, and there was 11 females in there, and I'm like, y'all are my people, I'm almost 10 years sober, and you guys are my people, and I can relate, and it's just a beautiful, setup that way. And we all serve our own purpose, right? All of the services, everything that we have here serves its purpose, peer work included. We all are on the equal playing field. But having those two backgrounds for me, I love both. So I'm just really grateful to be here, grateful that I was asked to speak, and that's a little bit about my story.
Keep talking. Hello? Okay. Okay, so I'm LJ, a person in long-term recovery. And what that means is that I haven't felt the need to use any substance since October of 2014. However, it was a bit of a journey to get to October of 2014. And that is where I think I should back up just a minute and think about why. This is one big reason, but I had always been a helper growing up. I had always been a listener. I had always been a fixer. I had always wanted to be there for other people. I don't know what happened to that. Somewhere along the line, things changed and I went in a different direction. And yet, it still blows my mind that the absolute most destructive and painful time of my life has earned me a right to do this job that I absolutely love. I mean, who would have thought that all that pain brought me to here? So I had probably a good 10 years of in and out, and 2 treatments, a dozen detoxes. I just could not get it. I couldn't do it. But I remember, and it was one of my first times in detox, I sat there in my room at what I would call one of the absolute lowest times of my life, because there is absolutely nothing worse than guilt and shame. And if nobody's talking to you about that or what to do with it, it really can do a number on your head. And I sat there thinking, there's this wonderful team of people. There's the psychiatrist and the doctor and the psych counselor and the nurses, and they've all been wonderful. But nobody wanted to talk to me about why I was where I was at and what I needed to do. I never knew where to begin. Now, this was, 2007, whatever. So a lot has changed. There's been wonderful improvements. Recovery coaching peer support is one of them. It, to me, felt as I was sitting there like something's missing from this. And what we do is what was missing from that. If somebody could have been there just to sit with me and even just sit quietly, just that I knew somebody was there who understood exactly what I was feeling and gave me hope, because I was very hopeless. So that was one of the things that always stuck in my head. And I think about the times I meet someone, the times I go see somebody in jail that I need to explain the program, but first I go there to see how they are. I see a different thing happen to their base when I tell them I'm a person in recovery. It's a different connection. It's like I'm not just, that I know. And what's really funny, because I'm an older person, we've had some young people in our program, and I've always offered, if you don't feel comfortable with me, I can get you one of the males and somebody much younger. And what do they say? You're doing just fine, LJ. So it's not any of that matters. It's that we can sit down and get this figured out, what needs to be happening for them. And if we don't get it right the first time, we're going to come at it in a different angle. So, I didn't forget anything. I'm sure I did. Thank you.
So my journey into recovery began in July of 2013. I woke up and I was facing a white wall, and I had no idea what happened. And throughout that process, I went through the traumatic event of losing custody of my children due to my substance use and being incarcerated and being homeless. And when I got out in November of 2013, I walked out of jail with nothing but the clothes on my back. I had no idea where to start. I had nobody to call a friend that wasn't using. I didn't know where I was gonna live, right? And everybody just kept telling me, go to treatment. I don't wanna go to treatment. I just say I'm in jail, right? Let me tell you, detoxing in jail is not for the weak, okay? So it was difficult, and honestly, I thought about getting out and shooting up water. So that is the depth of addiction, right? I went to a meeting. I did what people told me to do. I started in a residential treatment facility, and they wouldn't let me work or see my kids, so I said, screw you, and I left. So I unsuccessfully completed treatment. Still not having my kids, still not having a pot to piss in, right? I continued to fight the fight, and I wanted my children, and I wanted to be a good mom. I knew they weren't safe. And I remember going to meetings and hearing so many people say that they lost their kids and they don't know what to do. They don't have the financial ability to pay for an attorney. They don't know where to start. Their kids, are in foster care or group homes. They were adopted, and luckily, my mother paid for, attorney fees. And I fought my ass off to get my kids. And I did not get them for 2 years after I got sober. and I was angry and like, why is this taking so long? Like, I'm clean, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm working, I have an apartment, I have a fiance, like, you know what I mean? Like, why don't I have my kids? I don't think it's talked about enough. The shame that we feel as a parent, whether it's a mother or a father, when we lose our children because we couldn't stop using drugs, and the shame and the stigma that society holds as she doesn't love her kids, she loves drugs more. So I wanted to help other people who lost their children due to their substance use. Navigating the system is difficult even within the system, and even more challenging when you don't even know where to start. So you have a criminal background, right? You have a substance use disorder history, and people are looking at you like, she's going nowhere. And I'm kind of stubborn, so like I wanted to prove everybody wrong. So I did. I'm here. And now I raise my children by myself and have done so for the last 8 years. I want to help inspire people. I want to help people get that desire within and love themselves and understand that our past doesn't define our future. We can repave our path at any point in time. I use my substance use just like, you know, everybody else as an advantage. I got here where I'm at because I turned it around. So being able to be that support for somebody else at their lowest point in life, there's no better feeling to watch and go through that journey with somebody.
I love these people. Something kind of very important I totally forgot when I was going down memory lane was that feeling helpless and feeling hopeless and being told by pretty much everybody I had contact with. I mean, there was even professionals telling my husband that I would most likely die, that I just apparently haven't been able to get this. I have not been able to get this. I have not been able to get this. I heard that over and over. There were people in my recovery program I was working that also, you know, really wanted him to leave me. They felt that that would be the shakeup I needed. And he couldn't do that. We just celebrated 35 years. My point being, as we talk about this, is that I'm a shining example of, they said she couldn't do it. And I think we all are. I mean, when you're told that by professionals, when you're told that just about everybody here, and I tried everything, except what I really needed to be doing, but that's what I want, because a person is totally able to get recovery. It's possible. The only way it's not possible is that they're not alive. So I don't care how many times it takes. And I can get frustrated sometimes, like, we're going through this again, and then it happens, and you go, and it's a beautiful thing. So I needed to throw that in. Thank you.
Thank you. So would you say, was there at times of you going through that, let's say this last treatment spell in your recovery, was there someone that was more influential in your life at that time to really help you out? I'm asking all three. Anyone can take.
So for me, it took a village, man. I don't know. It was not. It was not just like one person, or like thinking back to one conversation that I had had with somebody. There's so many things that I believe that kind of have to happen, you know, at the right time. And that's where it's like being a peer professional, other professionals that we have sitting here, it's like all of our work truly matters. Because you just never know when you're going to get somebody in front of you that's in that window of like willingness and ready to do whatever it takes. And we all can have impact during those windows. So for me, I went to treatment in 2013, inpatient treatment. And I went for 28 days, and I remember starting to have like hope for the first time. I never had more than 2 days sober, really prior to that, besides being in jail. But on the outside. And so I remember like starting to feel momentum in my recovery and thinking I can do this. And so I had, you know, counselors there. Most of them were in recovery themselves. We went to meetings, all sorts of things. And the day that I got out of treatment, I used. And I had no intention of using that day. I had no intention of doing any of that. I wanted to stay clean and sober, and it was like, it just didn't make sense to me. So from there, it's like I picked up the first one, I'm like off to the races again, and I can't stop. So here I am sitting out on bond, don't know if I'm going to prison or not. Well, prison was actually on the table until drug court like miraculously landed in my lap.
Well, one second, you said that you weren't planning on using, so what made you use?
So,
Was it like the environment, like you walked outside and you smelled something or anything like that?
So I think like as a society, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole here for a second, I'm sorry. But I think as a society, we're very conditioned to always having a reason, okay? Or like we need to, like it's a bad day, rainy day, sunny day, Monday, Friday, boyfriend broke up with me, flat tire, you know, whatever. I'll come up with anything, okay? Especially if I'm being questioned by somebody, where like I need to come up with some response. And this was before I really knew what the disease was. I didn't understand that my disease was doing exactly what it does, right? It's like we get tight or high, drunk at exactly the wrong moment, hence leaving treatment. You know, I wake up in the morning thinking I'm not going to do it, and then I do it. And it just doesn't make sense, right? Like it's illogical. And I think that's the missing piece here, is that there's a lot more stigma with somebody who's had some time of abstinence, whether it's through incarceration, treatment, trying to stay clean and sober, and then they go back to it, right? Like there's more understanding, I feel like, for somebody who's currently struggling, can't stop, we're watching it, right? But there's something about that where it's like, but you had a job and you had a car and like you were doing good, and like what happened? And I would have assessors and judges and all the things people ask me that. And I finally had gotten to a point where I had run out of excuses, but like really, right? Like I just didn't know. And I answered truthfully in a setting that didn't like that answer. You know, thought that was the excuse, but really that was the truth. And for me, that was the first time that something could penetrate me. Because my back was up against the wall, my ego was at the door, I had no other reason. Like I remember thinking I must be crazy, you know, because this just doesn't make sense anymore. If I use, I go to jail. If I continue to use, I'm gonna go to prison and get revoked. Yet here I am using, right? So when I was in that moment of like this final like truth, and that's what I'm talking about, like things happening all at the same time, is that then I started to hear things differently. I don't know what it was, divine intervention. I have no idea what gets somebody to that point. But I finally had like the honest words come out of my mouth saying, I just don't understand. I don't know. And that was enough for me to be in a position where I could hear something and hear something from others. And so at that point, it's like I had so many people in my life. I had a drug court caseworker, I had a mental health therapist, I was an IOP, and I think my IOP counselor, I don't know if she's in here or not, but I just saw her earlier, Dee Dee Cummins. I don't know if you're here, but I was in your IOP. I had a sponsor, I had meetings, like all of those things helped. But I think the biggest thing for me was like, for me, it's 12-step recovery. That's my background. That's how I got clean and sober. That's what I continue to work to stay clean and sober. But anyway, it was being in that moment and having that support system around me when I was in that moment finally.
I think one of, talk into it right? Really close. I think that, like the first time I got sober and actually chunked some time together, I did it because I was pissed off at my sponsor, and she kept telling me I couldn't, so I did. Honestly, not a good reason. Not a good reason at all. I firmly believe in finally being ready. I firmly believe in everything aligning. I firmly believe in a person I saw earlier. I also saw Dee Dee, and she was there with me. That finally helped me figure out what my big snag was, and we sat down, and I didn't want to hear it from her, but I was out of options, and I thought, well, let's give this one a try. And that was the game changer. When I finally understood, after doing this ridiculous exercise for 30 days and slapping a love note to myself on the bathroom mirror and irritating my husband, that I honestly came to realize that I was self-sabotaging because I didn't believe I was worth this wonderful life. And that was the changer. So I started working on me and liking me, being comfortable with me, and not worrying about everybody else. You know, and then talked about that. It's like I quit worrying about, I put all of this trying to fix it business on back burner and went to work on me.
Good, thank you. Amanda.
What was the question?
Was there anyone that influenced your recovery, influenced you to move forward with recovery more than others?
Well, honestly, my mom kind of forced me. Literally dropped me off at my first meeting and left me there, and I was like, help? Right? And like walked in there, had no idea what the heck I was doing, and realized I wasn't the only one. And I agree, like something has to align. There comes a point when you just can't fight the fight anymore, and you give in, right? So we're so stubborn and bullheaded that we can do this, right? Because we're strong, we're independent, we don't need anybody's help, but we can't. Like, we need that connection and that bond and somebody else who's like us. We need people to see us. I had overdosed behind the wheel. It's funny you guys talk about your counselors being here, because Caitlin Ryder was mine. She's here as well. And I overdosed behind the wheel, right? Got out of the hospital, went home, got high. So like, it's just universe aligning. I don't know if there's one particular person that helped, but it did help that my family came together when they did. Even though my mother would like hide her purse and like not tell me where she lived for a little while. She was supportive, although they weren't quite sure if I was going to make it because I left treatment. But it got better, and we built that trust back up. So.
Thank you all for sharing. The other question I have for the panel, we hear a lot of times in the recovery realm, meet people where they're at. When you talk about meeting people where they're at, what is that really? What does that look like? Anyone?
Turn green. So for me, meeting people where they're at is really not ideal with as far as the program that I work with. But not everybody's ready. We need to assess that situation, and I had a gal I was working with up in Appleton, different background from what I do right now, but I was a recovery coach, and she was she was a chronic alcoholic, and she used to call 3-4 times a day between myself and another coach. She had this unique method of keeping track of how many drinks she was drinking and how much. She had a little notebook. So this is like a simplified version of harm reduction in this situation. I said, how about instead of, because somebody had come in a couple of times and threw everything out, and she just walked right down the street and got more. So I said, how about you start by not having one every hour and go to every other hour? She's like, what? It did work for a little bit, but then stuff like that. So meeting her, she was not willing. But anything I could do to help her really assess, like, I don't want to be intaking this much, that's how we left it. Some people, okay, in my area that I'm working in right now, some people are opposed to certain recovery methods. I don't want to attend these meetings, I don't want to this, I've tried that. I do not demand that anybody do anything a certain way. I, however, strongly suggest that they make a connection with recovery community. That is a game changer. A lot of them end up changing their mind down the line. I don't tell them how they have to do it because this is their recovery, not mine. How I do mine, even though I will explain it if I'm asked, that doesn't fit for everybody. So that's meeting people where they're at.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Megan, how would you define these people where they're at?
So, I mean, I can definitely just say from my own experience, especially in my earlier recovery where I was a lot more controlling, if you will, or thinking I had more power than I really did. And I needed to go through that to see that I can absolutely play a part. And being in recovery and having overcome and coming to the other side brings immense power in a room with somebody who is ready, right? And I remember expending a lot of energy and just not really understanding like those phases where people are at. And so quite frankly, I probably like caused some harm at the beginning where I was just so like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Like I just wanted to help everybody and like show from the rooftops, recovery is possible. And then I found though that like there's a better way of doing this. And for me, it's really finding the balance. I don't want to tiptoe around somebody's disease. I won't. Because I'm not going to tiptoe around the truth either, right? However, it's also understanding that where somebody might be in front of me coming full blown of like, well, you should do this and this and this and this. It's like really listening to the person that's in front of me. Because there's a better way of doing it than coming in like full bore. I'm like, this is all you have to do. And it's like, everything. You need to change everything, right? It's like, that's not overwhelming at all. It's the truth. But we can get there in a different way, right? So I think over time, I learned from my own mistakes. I learned from walking out of a meeting and being like, I had a little strong personality in that meeting. You know what I mean? A little too much, or I'm losing people, right? So it's like, I have to be on my best, is to be able to look at my behaviors, look at how I'm interacting with people, understanding that, like, I'm not going to be right about every single thing. I'm not going to walk out winning the day every day, right? And like understanding and recognizing my place, and also understanding and respecting the disease, because holy moly, it is strong and powerful. But like I said, it's like that balance. Like I don't want to back away from it either. So it's like I'm not going to not talk about recovery with somebody, even if they are using or currently drinking. you know? And then it's like those initiative conversations can show kind of where they're at and where my next step is to take with the person. So it's like, I'm gonna poke just a little bit, and if they're like open, awesome, great. If they ask me about my recovery, even better, right? Like the door is open, like let's go there. But if I poke and their disease is loud that day, right? And the cat claws come out and the defenses and just the huge brick walls, the stubbornness that Amanda was talking about, right? These symptoms of the disease of addiction. Our disease wants to protect itself. It wants to protect the drug. And so that's what I'm up against sometimes. So if I'm poking and I'm seeing that, it's like there is a better time and place to go full bore, and it's not right now. So I think for me, it's really recognizing and actively listening and knowing my own power, I guess, if you will, like really where I stand with this. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. Amanda?
So this question came up and I got super excited and I was like, sweet, this is what I do for work every day, right? And so harm reduction is the field I am in, so it is all about meeting people where they're at. I work with people who are currently using substances, right? And so acknowledging that this is where they are in life. They may be a person who is experiencing homelessness, and where society expects us to just stop doing drugs at the snap of a finger. And it's gonna work the same way for everybody, but it doesn't. It looks different for every single person. And so if somebody is experiencing homelessness and they have to use drugs to stay awake on the street, like, do you think that that is their first priority, is to stop using drugs? No. It is they need to be safe and secure, right? So housing, right? And so once people feel safe and secure, it goes on from there. For an example, I had a client come in yesterday who had a relapse, and she admitted right when she got there, you know, I didn't want to come here, and I'm glad you did, right? So providing, just treating them like they're equal, but she, long story short, she ended up leaving my office, and she stopped and said, thank you for being you and doing the work that you do. She said, you made me feel extremely comfortable being able to come in here. And I was ashamed and disgusted with myself. So allowing them to be who they are in that exact moment, whether they're angry, whether they're happy, whether they're ready to get into treatment, whatever treatment road they choose to go down. If they are polysubstance users, which means they're using more than one substance, and they want to stop one but not the other, like, we're going to work with you at that point no matter where you are, and it is okay. So,
Thank you.